Hey friends, it's Ian Khan here at Consensus 2025. I've got with me an old friend, Michael Casey, he's here and he was participating. Let's ask Michael about a few things that I've been wanting to ask him. Michael, welcome to the Futurist series here.
Thank you, Ian. Thanks for having me.
A lot is happening, let's not talk crypto, but I want to ask you about what's the general state of industry today? What is something that you're looking at intensely that you think is going to be, life-changing, not necessarily profitable or money-making, but what's big that's coming towards us?
Well, I have placed all my cards, if you like, in the decentralized AI world, which I think is partly a merger of crypto and AI, and so therefore the most interesting thing in the blockchain and crypto space, as far as I can see, are those different players that are building different elements of what I call the decentralized AI stack. So there's deep-in networks that are being developed, some new, some old, like Filecoin, other ones that are much newer that are working on using those deep-in structures, decentralized physical infrastructure networks, to coordinate things like compute, right? So rather than have everything sitting at AWS, the compute that is needed to run AI models is accessed in a decentralized network. You've got others that are creating things like data DAOs, like Vano, Anna, who was talking here recently. These are concepts around empowering people to own their own data. There is a lot of folks building frameworks in which autonomous, privacy-preserving agents, IA agents, can operate and trade on your behalf. And beyond that, even a whole range of different service providers. So I think that's the most exciting part of the industry. I feel like the buzz that I'm sensing around that is reminiscent of what I saw in the early days of Bitcoin and Ethereum, where it's really about the builders, the people who are coming up with really important, interesting, innovative ideas. We're trying to think outside the box and solve the big, hard problems that the centralized model of AI currently represents.
Here at Consensus, it's very typical. You don't see many large, typical industry, companies, but you have Google, you have AWS, and that's a great sign that the larger companies are also looking at what's happening in the ecosystem. I feel they're probably doing more storage, back-end compute kind of things. How do you see decentralized AI playing a part in the larger scheme of technology industry? Do you think the bigger players are going to start acting on it, noticing it?
Look, in some respects, it's hard not to think of them of anything but the enemy, right? That's just not to say that has to be a hostile relationship, or to say that they won't in some way buy into the decentralized structure, but we're literally trying to solve a problem. That is that we've concentrated power over our data, over the compute, over the capital in the hands of 7 companies, right? So Google's one of them, Amazon's another one. So, look, the solution we're looking to do is to get into a world in which we are not, like literally us, our data, ourselves, being controlled by monopolistic companies that have black box machines that we can't understand what they're doing, right? So I don't want to get too extreme over it, but it truly is a battle over 2 very different models. Having said that, I think that the way towards decentralization is probably going to have them participating in certain ways. I don't think that we as a community have the resources to be able to take them on. I now represent the Decentralized AI Society, which is an organization I founded 6 months ago. And the whole purpose is to try to get around that, to actually unify, to solve problems like the engineering challenges, the capital challenges, and so forth. And therefore, through power of numbers and power of many, we can take on the centralized players. But I still don't think it's enough, because it's just we've never seen this level of economic and political power, right? So where does it change? I think the hope lies in the fact that LLMs are getting commoditized. That we can thank, ironically, China for, because DeepSeek created a very much lower cost version of an open source system. So it sort of like puts a lot of pressure on OpenAI and Anthropic and these other ones to compete. And I think that then pushes the LLM layer to a more commoditized perspective. It is like a foundational layer. And the real interest then is what gets built on top of that, this agentic concept we keep hearing about, right? And that the value moves up the stack, and that in that world, you'll have all these independent players building things independently of the other ones, able to use those LLMs as kind of like the foundational piece, but specifically customizing for end users. And that if we build the right framework in which those agents can communicate and interact with each other, that's how we get to decentralization rather than sort of some magic blockchain solution. And then in that you're going to see the Googles and the others sort of wanting to participate and exchange value and with those networks. The value constructs are going to be much more of a kind of an ecosystem. But it could go either way, right? We could have the whole system just monopolized by AWS or by NVIDIA or anybody else. And we've got to really make sure that the frameworks are in place. Open protocols, self-sovereign identity, privacy-preserving tech, all the things these things are going to be vital if we can have our agents operating on our behalf and not have the centralized players control.
We're hearing a lot about agentic AI this year. I mean, you go to a conference and it's all about agentic AI, and so sometimes you encounter a topic, you're like, is this even real? Like, what is going on? You know, I don't know how much of that is real, how much of that is up in the air. What are your thoughts on agentic AI, the reality of it, and how long will it take for it to mature?
Good question. I mean, it is a bit of a buzzword. I mean, in some aspects, we're already there. Like people are using and creating their own customized chatbots and things like that. But I think in the crypto space, especially when we talk about it, we're talking about trying to create agents that are autonomous and can act on our behalf. Although those two things are probably contradictory, but what they mean by that is like they've got this construct in which you can trust them to go out in the wild and sort of like make your trades and do your shopping and check on your health and so forth. And again, it gets back to what I was saying before. I don't think that agentic economy will actually come to bear in any way that is viable until we resolve trust problems, right? Again, privacy preserving, verifiable models, et cetera, et cetera. And so there's a lot of work to be done. So, I mean, it's going to be a buzzword that's going to be out there, and people are going to say, I've got this agent and that agent, but until you can say, I can verify that this model is doing exactly what I need it to do, and that I can prove that my data is private and so forth, then you're really just sort of feeding money back into the chat, information back into the chat box, and you don't know what it's doing.
What about your read on different regions that are operating right now, and what do you think of kind of some meaningful work that's being done? Yes, China did DeepSeek, America is working on something, a new administration in America is putting billions of dollars into infrastructure, amazing. What are your thoughts on some regions that are doing good? Anything we should notice, like the Middle East, Asia, America?
Interestingly, I think the Middle East is probably the most forward-thinking. I'm not actually convinced that the US is doing the right thing. I mean, obviously the administration's support for crypto is constructive, but the real issue is, open source versus black box. And right now, the US government is using closed-ended, sort of secretive AIs to literally monitor and assess social security data, right? That's the antithesis of what anybody in the crypto decentralized world should be in favor of. So, whereas if you look at Dubai and the UAE, they're looking at sort of digital identity solutions that are all about self-sovereignty, about people being able to control their data. And I think that's actually going to be the most important building block of a future Internet of AI in which we humans have our own agency. So, I want to see governments that are looking at that, right? How do I create a new structure of relationship for my citizens that gives them control over their data and the capacity to interact with these digital systems and AI in particular? And I think the UAE is, amongst the bigger jurisdictions, is probably sort of further along. We're in Canada. British Columbia has a structure that works around credentials on this basis. Countries like Estonia and others. So there's a number that have sort of started to sort of figure out a way in which these very important building blocks are being preserved. I wouldn't put the United States in that camp, actually.
Last question. What do you think is a timeline for something like a decentralized AI being adopted to a healthy level in the future? Are you looking at like 2 to 5 years or 5 to 7? What's your take? When we have like
I don't like doing the projection game, because it's just so hard right now in this. It's so fast, and so you know, look, it's going to happen. Look, AI is going to move faster and faster.
Yeah.
I just generally believe that there's going to become a breaking point in which we can't move it to any constructive new version of pro-human innovation unless we decentralize. And so if we all get religion and recognize that, then yes, within 2 years, this will be the framework.
Yeah.
Or in 2 years, we end up in something a little bit more dystopian, right? So it's actually that important, right? This is a do or die kind of moment. I actually believe that we end up in the do, because not just this moral imperative that we have to look after humanity, the economics of being able to unlock all of that data and do the innovation that needs to happen, I think can also be a huge driver of the opportunity. And when that sort of rubber meets the road moment happens, then I think we start to move quite quickly into a decentralized framework.
Amazing. Michael, thank you so much for talking to us. Really appreciate it.
Thank you, Ian.
Have a good time at the conference.
Appreciate it.
All right.
Thank you.